Well, my name's Chris Conley. Currently I'm Director of Student Ministries, interim here at Ellisville, and how Star Wars has impacted me from the time I was a child. Star Wars is the first movie franchise I remember watching and being interested in, but a big part of it to me was the toys. I remember even at my family's older house, which would have made me 4 or less in age, where I was pretty obsessed with the toys and remembering getting different, very specific Star Wars toys. So I was always very interested in it. Like other movies and different things back in those days, we didn't really have DVR or VHS, videotape, anything like that. But my parents would, on movies we liked, but especially Star Wars, I remember, did an audio cassette where they recorded the audio of the movie. And I remember just rewinding and playing that thing over and over and listening through the whole Star Wars movie and even the commercials. But loved the story and just grew to love the Star Wars universe. So I think, like a lot of kids that grew up with it, just the ideas that George Lucas presented, but really that the story presented and the characters that you became so attached to. It was definitely those characters that were like my heroes, Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and these kind of characters, Chewbacca. And the second movie, which was Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5, I was 7 when it came out, and so it was one of my earliest movie-going experiences. So I remember going to the movies and seeing The Empire Strikes Back with my dad, with my brother. And obviously it was huge because all this character development and these specific characters like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, as kids we became very attached to them, and but then that's the story of Empire Strikes Back completely deepened the story. Relating to a kid who doesn't like doing his chores, more or less, which was Luke Skywalker, who would complain about doing his chores, being the hero that would defeat the Empire out in space. I mean, he was this farm kid who didn't like doing his chores, and he was the hero who ended up being able to defeat the ultimate weapon in the universe. I mean, that was kind of, I think it made it relatable to a kid who thinks, I'm so small in this whole world, and being able to see something like that, I think instills something in a kid of going, yes, the universe is huge, but like even small people can have huge potential. I don't know that we would have noticed that as kids, but I think that's what made it so exciting. The whole story obviously completely deepened when they revealed not only that Luke was fighting this guy and he was going to possibly defeat this guy, but that Darth Vader, the ultimate bad guy, was actually Luke Skywalker's father. So obviously there's huge unique links between sons and fathers. And I remember even seeing that movie with my dad and thinking, well, at least my dad's not Darth Vader, right? At least he's got that going for him. So that's, and a lot of people consider that second movie kind of to be one of the best of all of them that have been made, even up to this point. And it introduced so many different settings into the Star Wars universe, where it really made you realize in that world, that fictional world, that there were all these different planets and worlds, and there was this snow one, and it took place, obviously in kind of snow forts. And so for us kids, when it would snow, then all of a sudden that became our backyard, and our neighborhood became the Hoth planet. And I mean, I remember we would build things in our yards and forts, and we were preparing for Darth Vader to land, and is our fort ready, and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes we'd play act out the the snow monster that Luke ends up having to fight. One of the things I love about Star Wars is my kids have gotten into it. Like they play with the toys, but they've gotten into the movies and they'll want to watch them. And my boys especially, we have tons of lightsabers. Now you can get all the different lightsabers with the different designed hilts and all that. So I love it just because it's relatable on multiple generations, honestly. Like, I remember when I was 22 and I was in my first ministry position as a youth pastor. That's when Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, came out. And the first prequel, and man, it was like so exciting. And I had a couple of my volunteer youth leaders who were my age or a little bit older we were just so excited. But the teenagers in our youth ministry, like, they didn't really understand this whole Star Wars thing or what the big deal was. And we remember taking a big group of them to that. And we remember when the first opening credit scene came on and that song and those the orchestral arrangement and those trumpets. When it first burst out, it was that same song. It gave you goosebumps. But I remember, especially Episode 1, and I haven't seen this happen since Episode 1, but I remember when that song came on, like, people actually got up and cheered in the movie theater. And they're telling the backstory and that rolling story thing that George Lucas came up with for the first movie. They've done it with every movie. Just how, like, surreal it was. Like, that, oh my gosh, there's going to be a Star Wars like that my kids will probably grow up with. And now it's 20 years later again, and they're still making these, and they're making backstories to backstories. It showed how deep the story was, that it wasn't just the story of these heroes that went out into space and saved the galaxy from the Empire, but it was ultimately, and I've heard interviews with George Lucas on this, it was ultimately a redemption story of this central character, Anakin Skywalker, who turned to the dark side at one point and who, in the end, returned as a good guy. And that it was a redemption story. And, to me, and what I do, and just my faith and everything, like, the idea of a story being a redemption story brought on, even more meaning to me. Now, obviously, the Star Wars story, the intent of it wasn't really to tell the story of Christianity, the story of Jesus, or anything like that. But the idea of redemption in any form, I think the fact that we even see a need for that in our culture or in a story, that we see that as a strong pull, that people see a need for redemption, I think it's because of our need for it, our real need for it in life, that we realize we need rescued. I think the reason we have these kind of stories, that people that aren't even people of faith, or not even people of faith of the Christian faith, see how valuable a story like this is because of our internal need for rescue. It's just crazy that it all started as this low-budget movie that George Lucas couldn't get any of these studios to produce. Like, he went to some of the biggest ones, and obviously they all now feel like they were idiots, that they turned him down. Like, Disney turned it down way back in the day, even though they own it now. But 3 or 4 of the biggest studios turned him down. And but it obviously hit a nerve in our culture that people were looking for. And man, there are some people that, as into it as I am, I realize there are some people that are even way more into it than I. And so, and they'll dress up for the different movie premieres and all this kind of stuff. So, and get upset about different things of the way the story is and everything. But I enjoy it, and I don't know, so.